Hour 2 Overdrive continues, powered by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Bryan Hayes, the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles, McLennan. The Leafs are off to the second round. We got Game 6 in St. Louis tonight to see if Winnipeg can punch that ticket. Edmonton's already in. So we got 2 Canadian teams, right? We got 2. We got a chance at a third here. Might get a third team into the second round. I think that's what you guys were calling for.
I think the peg they're getting, did I read correctly today? They're getting Ehlers back.
He's a game-time decision,
sounds like
but
game
it sounds
time,
like
game-time decision in the Stanley Cup playoffs. You're in. I can't wait to watch that game tonight. Monty, man, his pressers, man, he's just
PhD.
He's got to
Monty.
go on, huh?
PhD Monty.
Yeah.
He's an MD, man. He knows he's a doctor.
The best thing about X and the internet and stuff is the memes. So there's him talking about, 55 and the hit on Foxta.
He just couldn't call him Scheifele either. That's what gets me, too.
55,
he could not say Scheifele.
And he's like, he got rocked by Fasca. And so, or Faxa or whatever it was. And he goes, there's an old song called Rock the Casbah by The Clash. Mm-hmm. So somebody put that in there, and he's, instead of, Rock the Casbah, it's him rocked by Fasca. It's so funny. Like I watched it 20 times.
I haven't seen that.
I'll try and send it. I watched it 20 times today. I was laughing out loud because it's just, him over top his voice singing that Clash song. It was pretty good. But,
well, I remember he was singing behind a bench. Game 2, I think it was, in Winnipeg. He was having a great time. The Blues were about to go down 2-0.
They're losing, and he's singing. Yeah.
Is that when I saw that one video where he liked the song and he started singing?
Yeah.
They were losing.
It was during the game, Game
left.
2 against the Jets in Winnipeg. Guys having a blast behind the bench. And listen, that's kind of the way they operate. You look at your boy Peter DeBoer last night. I'd love to won Game 6, but what are you going to do? Back to home for Game 7. All the guy does is win Game 7s, too. Peter DeBoer never loses Game 7s.
Dude,
never
damn straight.
loses them.
What did DeBoer? His media last night was pretty sharp, though, because he talked about the bad goal. That was an insane goal against. Mm-hmm. Like, insane.
Oh, my God. Blackwell. Somebody ripped it off of Blackwell's arm in
shot
front
it
of
off his shoulder, and it goes in. Like, it was insane, that goal. That was the go-ahead goal, too. That was the 5-4 goal. But he's like, it's a weird call or a weird goal against, and even Ottinger was kind of chuckling about it afterwards. He's laughing about it. He's like, nothing you can do. And, like, they were very poised. But then DeBoer's, he got sharp about, there were some bad calls, and somebody asked, what calls? He goes, you go look at the game tape. And, maybe he's politicking for Game 7, as usual.
You might as well, man.
Right?
Right? You kind of have to. If you're Jared Bednar, you're probably doing the same thing for Colorado.
Well, that other goalie in Colorado, he has not exactly been a pillar of strength back there either. So I think Ottinger just has to stop the nonsense and just say, nothing's getting by me. I'm the better goaltender, and I'm going to be the difference maker in this Game 7.
Yeah.
Because there's been some just goals filling the net. That Rantanen, I think he had 4 points in the second period last night.
4 points.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they lost the game.
Well, I was thinking how brutal that ending would have been with Rantanen skating off the ice in Colorado, and I would have gave a Roger Clemens up to the press box and fired up. Remember when Clemens went back to Boston at Fenway?
Yep.
And he pitched, and then he had that glare up at, I don't know who
Blue
it was.
Jay.
Yeah, he was a Blue Jay, and he looked up to the press box, and he just gave someone an absolute death stare. And I'm like, Rantanen's going to get that moment tonight. And then they didn't win. Yeah. Crazy.
And it happened quickly, to your point, in the third period. Before you knew, it was 4-3, then it's 5-4, and you're like, okay, I guess Colorado's going to survive. It's been a great series.
Yeah, it has.
That's the one you expected to go 7, and now it is. So you got that on Saturday and possibly a Game 7. I think we're going 7, Winnipeg, St. Louis, personally.
Well, St. Louis has won 14 in a row at home.
Right. And just missing Scheifele's massive, man. Scheifele not being in the lineup is a real, this Robert Thomas has been playing really, really well. And Shen is going to be feeling it because he got out of it. He didn't get suspended, so he's still alive and he's ready to play. So Sarah Orlesky will join us in about an hour from the rink. Sarah's down there in St. Louis. We'll get her take on what we can expect from that game. And Mike Johnson will join us here in just a moment. Get Johnny's take. You guys were doing your thing on YouTube last night. I saw that. The Hot Zone, you and Duthie and Dregs. It's great to see you guys. You guys are crushing the postgame, man. Crushing the postgame.
Yes.
For the Leaf. All the Leaf stuff. And Noodles, you'll be doing it tonight for the Jets.
Doing the Jets. And, it's it's good. We talk about a Canadian content. And, you talked about Johnny and the numbers. I laughed last night when I was watching. You said something about Mike's a pretty smart guy. And you have the numbers, but you went back to what you saw, basically your instinct, and and seeing a guy like Matthews being physical. It's weird, and I agreed with you. I didn't think Willie had his goods, but he had a brilliant shot.
Yeah.
Which
he had a Glenn Featherstone moment last night. He was keeled over with his stick on his knees in front of the net, and I couldn't believe I was watching it.
After an awful turnover, lazy middle of the ice turnover, and then his remote control got unplugged, and he was just.
He did the Eric Lindros pose in the slot with the stick on the knee pads and keeled over, and I was like, he's not doing this right now.
This isn't good.
Did anybody clip that video? Like, do we have it? Like. Because it was, now that you look back, it's funny, right? Like there are moments
it is.
through
Second
a game.
Period, man. It was in the second period.
I didn't know what was going on. Like it usually Leaf fans are on top of everything going, hey, take a look at this. I didn't see it. Like nobody.
I saw it and I couldn't believe
it. We all
it.
saw it because we were laughing about it in the group text. But nobody clipped it and was like, what is this guy doing?
The beauty of it is when you win the game, you don't have to.
You don't have to talk. Well, if they lose last night.
Oh, yeah, there would have been a revisit. Plus, the game sheet could have been revisited, and that's not Mr. Chuckles having a good time. Hey, Alex Nylander was possibly going to play last night.
He might not have been able to play, correct? Like
yes.
That is a massive.
All right, let's bring in Mike Johnson, our TSN hockey analyst. So, Johnny, the story goes, I guess Berube or someone from the Leaf staff, electronically you put in your roster, and then the league is allowed to notify you if they feel you've made a mistake, and that's what happened. It wasn't the Leafs that saw, actually, we put in, 92 instead of 88, and the league gave him a hookup. I mean, can you imagine if Nylander wasn't playing last night?
Well, hang on a sec. Did they give him a hookup, or did the Leafs notice it themselves?
I was of the impression, I could be wrong, I was of the impression the league was like, hey, just to clarify, it's William, right? And they were like, yes.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so, Hayes.
Right.
I think they put it in, obviously, and then someone from the Leafs like, no, that's not right. We made a mistake. I don't think it was the league bailing them out. I think that was, on the broadcast when it's happening real time, they were sort of trying to figure out what went down. But I think Dreg suggested that the Leafs were the ones to have caught it, even though they made the first mistake themselves. But, I mean, can you imagine? They dropped the puck and William Nylander. And then what? Alex got to come out of the rafters. He's there having a beer with his dad watching the game with the Black Aces, and he's got to, because he'd be allowed to play, right?
Yeah,
they would have told him, don't even bother. They would have just
forward,
just
60.
go 11-6. Like
I don't know.
At that point,
serve a penalty, get an injury. I mean, you might as well have a body waiting around if you're going. Anyways, it didn't happen. All's well that ends well. But that was, and I guess part of the mechanics of it. It used to be you write it in pen.
Yes, I used to have to do it.
You were in the coach's office. You saw this, right?
Yeah.
You'd write 12, Iginla, 22, Conroy, whatever it is. But now you type in NY, and it self-populates to the Nylander in your team. Alex comes before William, and they just clicked on the first one. And it just populated for Alex because it's alphabetically. It was earlier. So I think that's sort of how it went. They glossed over it, not ever having to think about it for the last 4 months when Alex wasn't in the NHL. But, yeah. It's it's one of those things when you win, when he scores 2 goals, it's all sort of a footnote in a good story as opposed to what would have been. I mean, leafiest is a word I'm getting to use a lot now with O, and that would have been one of the really leafiest moment if they're on a run of bad luck. That would have been awful.
That would have been crazy. Like truly one of the craziest sports stories ever. Forget the Leafs, like just sports in general.
Yeah.
All right, so Leafs get through in 6. When you look back on the series, what sticks out to you? What will you remember most from the Battle of Ontario?
What I will remember is that the Leafs got through this series playing exactly the same way they played all year. Like they stayed true to their identity, and that identity sometimes doesn't look great. That identity sometimes plays on their own end. That identity doesn't always run and gun and create a ton of chances or shots. But they find ways to win because they believe they have superior goaltending. Their power play can be good, and they got stars that can be difference makers. So if that's your identity, that's how you do it. That's how they did it all year. And in Game 6, the clinching game, that's how they did it. You guys mentioned it. William Nylander, he didn't have a great game. There were some moments that shift was, and I'm like, are you watching what I'm watching? Oh, like, this is insane what he's doing right now. What is going on? And then when he got the puck the second time at the neutral zone and then didn't change, I'm like, this is ridiculous. But that recipe worked. And maybe the other thing I'll take out of it is that, man, I think Craig Berube, give him credit. He's got a feel for his team. He made a lot of right calls, and his demeanor was beneficial to the team finding a way through a stressful, tight series that they haven't always found a way through. So that's kind of the takeaways I would go with.
Johnny, rapid fire some questions regarding the series for the Maple Leafs. Who is the MVP?
Oh, good question. Good question. It's like Tanev McCabe partnership. I don't even know. Is it? I mean, the top guys had lots of points, power play points.
You got to give me one. It's either a D pairing, something for the MVP.
I'm going Tanev McCabe. That's what they do. That's who they are.
Okay. What about pleasant surprise?
The fourth line finding a role that Berube liked and could play on the offensive end. I know they didn't get a ton of points or even chances, but they territorially did what they had to do. He could trust them. They play with energy. They play with physicality. They get in the offensive zone. They bang around. They set the table for the other guys. And Lawton getting the game puck after last night after absolutely eating that one-timer with 30 seconds left. And, it's so cliche in that moment because I believe I remember Mitch Marner at the end of a playoff game diving 4 times in front of a puck. Remember that one?
Yep.
So it's not like he would be the only guy to do it, but it sort of symbolized why they wanted him specifically, because when it gets tough and somebody has to make a game-winning play, he will do what it takes. So the fourth line to me was the pleasant surprise because you didn't know what you're going to get down there. Who would play with who, how it would work, and it worked quite well.
What about Benois?
That's my guy.
Yeah.
Benois. Listen, that guy's a breakout star. They put the playoffs. Like, honestly, not just he set up an overtime winner. He scored an overtime winner. That alone exceeds anything you could ever expect out of him for the entirety of the playoffs. Those two things alone. But it was more than that. It was the stuff he's sort of supposed to do well. Defend. Play with physicality. Close up on gaps. Kill penalties. Be at the end of the game in high leverage situations. He did all of that. And what I loved about him is two things. One, sometimes when the Leafs get running around, they can look fatigued or maybe a little slow. He's got lively legs. He can take a puck and sort of skate away from guys a little bit and then get it out and do whatever he wanted. And the other thing, Noodles,
yep,
he looked fearless. He did not seem to have any sort of stage fright about the moment, about screwing up at the wrong time. He just let it fly. And I think for this team over the years, they haven't had enough guys like that. They were just sort of could wire themselves to just let it go. And he was really good to the point. If you were watching the last 3 minutes last night, obviously, Tanev McCabe go out there, Carlo and Benois. No Morgan Riley the last 4 minutes of the game last night. It was Simon Benoit, who deserved to be out there because he's played that well. Yeah, that's a good call. He was a pleasant surprise for sure, but he was excellent.
And there were times, let's be honest, down the stretch, there were times where I didn't think he was going to play. I didn't think that, you got Yanni Hakanpää, and that would just never materialize. Maybe Yanni Hakanpää will be the biggest, star of the second round. Who knows? But there were times where I just felt like Benoit was rotating himself out of the lineup down the stretch, or maybe before down the stretch. There was a pocket there where he wasn't playing well, and that has changed. It seems like he's a staple now, and I love the word that you said, fearless. He didn't seem overwhelmed by the moment where, it's not like this guy has a wealth of playoff experience. That's a guy who on that roster doesn't have a ton, but he played like he did.
Yeah, he was outstanding.
Yeah. And OEL. Give OEL credit, who I think as well, the Leafs got great value from this year, but there were times he looked a little fatigued. I think on the third pair, it worked with Benoit. Against Ottawa, it worked. We'll see how it works against Florida because it's a different kind of challenge. But I thought OEL also elevated sort of the cleanliness, the execution of his game with Benoit to just provide reliability, and that was something that the Leafs were looking for.
Johnny, the last category I have is who can give more. If you were talking to someone from Florida and you were going to fill in the blanks to this question, or the statement, and the statement was, watch out for this guy on the Leafs because he was okay, but he's got a lot more to give in the next series. Who would it be?
Second line of 5-on-5. I know Nylander scored a goal last night, but they did not have a lot of great offensive moments in flurries. Tavares, Nylander, and they tried everybody.
Everyone
right?
else.
Literally, they tried 6 different wingers: McMahon and Domi and Yarncroke and obviously Pacioretty in the end. They tried everybody there. So I would think the second line has more. Because now a lot of that falls to William Nylander to drive the play, to have the puck, to carry it, to create for his wingers, whoever, or the centerman and the winger. But I think they got more in them. Statistically, power play, they all picked up points, but I think the way they played, they'll have to be more effective. They'll be better against Florida, and they can be.
Well, that's the challenge, right? You turn the page pretty quickly, and you've got the Florida Panthers waiting for you. And they're a favorite. They'll be a favorite on FanDuel and Vegas. The expectation will be there that the Panthers are, in my opinion, the team to beat in the sport. They're the cream of the crop. How different do you believe the Leafs, if at all, have to play in order to have success against Florida?
I don't think they have to play differently, and I think that would be unwise to think that they have to do anything different. They'll have to be physical, and they'll have to play hard, and they'll have to battle, and all those different things that, of course, they need to do. The real challenge, Hayes, is that how will they find space? When Florida plays well, they are better than anyone at just compressing the rink, so there's nothing out there. They can't even breathe out there. There's just no space for you anywhere. They have to deal with that pressure. We talked about the wall play last night, and when the puck comes around the boards, it's not always clean. Toronto's got to do a good job sort of moving the puck up the ice to give themselves a chance to go make Florida play on their own end, where they're good, but they're not incredible. What Florida does well is they don't ever let you get there, right? They sort of check you before you have a chance to put them on their heels. So I don't think different, just better. And it's a big task, and obviously, and you're going to need moments where your goalie's better than theirs. You might need a moment where their goalie's not very good. You might need a moment where your power play goes 3 for 5 and wins you the game. You're going to need a couple of one-offs. I don't know if they just played 60 minutes 5-on-5 straight up. I don't like the Leafs' chances of sort of winning that series, but with all the other elements, they give themselves a shot.
Yeah, and all those ingredients showed up, against Ottawa, where the core four, they put up points. You mentioned 5-on-5 in some areas. They could be better, but then you got big moments from Domi and Benois and Pacioretty, and the goalie played well. And, I look at this team in 2025 compared to the one in 2023 that ran into the Panthers. I like the goalie better in Stolarz over Samsonov. I love the defense pairings compared to where it was 2 years ago. I think it's night and day, quite frankly. The rest, is you can discuss.
Well, not to take a shot at Sheldon Keefe, who I think is a very good coach. I don't know how much coaches matter, but Craig Berube, he's got something going on.
I agree.
He's got a feel, and he's done this before, and a calmness to what is going on when the world around the Leafs can be very noisy. He doesn't let it bother him, and he does a good job trying to not let it bother his players. So that also, I think, is a pretty significant difference relative to years past.
Yeah, there it is. The coach, the goalie, and the defense.
Other than that.
Yeah, and that's significant.
Well,
that's big.
What do you guys?
The Leafs should be more confident, I think, than they were 2 years ago, even though 2 years ago they finally won a series, and Florida was the 8th seed who found a way to get past Boston. Right? We didn't know exactly what they were yet. It's a very different complexion this time.
What do you guys make of playing against a player that played with you? So Stolarz knows them, they know him. Would that, if you knew a goalie that you played with, but that goalie knows where your sweet spots are, where his weaknesses are.
I think it's all generalities.
Yeah.
Generalities a word, Hayes?
Yeah, you're good, man.
Yeah,
Check.
you're on top, yeah.
You're talking about, hey, this guy, I used to just torch him top glove. So you got a split second if you get a one-timer opportunity to say, if I get this top glove, I'm going to have a good chance to score. Or you get a breakaway and you've scored a bunch or you know weaknesses. You're talking about a split second about deciphering what you had in the memory bank and applying it to a split-second decision.
Yeah.
So can someone over a series take advantage of that and say, I know that guy and I'm going to continue to do this? I would say it's highly unlikely.
Johnny, just before you get there, the only reason it made me think of it is last night Warren Foegele had a breakaway on Pickard, and I guarantee you those two probably had 5,000 breakaways. The Pickard being the backup.
Yeah.
Now it's Florida and Stolarz, where a lot of these guys probably worked with Stolarz before practice, after practice, because the backup spends a lot of time with the grade A shooters, right? Because they want to work on stuff. What do you make of it, Johnny?
I always thought, and I've had this conversation, of course, the goalie's always like, no, it's advantage shooter. And the shooter's always like, no, it's advantage goalie. But to me, I think I'm the shooter. I think it's advantage goalie because, as O said, it's a lot for a player to process all those different things. But I wonder if instinctively Stolarz reads the stick, reads the release, reads the eyes comfortably because he's seen it so many times. Maybe he gets a slight half second, a tenth of a second reaction benefit by, I remember, when he puts the stick like this, he just sort of recalls what it felt like to see those shots because he's seen them so many times. As a shooter, there's just not, maybe on a breakaway, maybe on a 2-on-1 or on a power play where you're kind of stationary for a second. But, it's too much going on for the player to do it. But the goalies, I don't know, I always felt that they would have a better read on what I was wanting to do because they've seen it.
With Mike Johnson, we've put a post up or a poll up on Twitter asking what Panthers player is the biggest villain for the Maple Leafs. And a lot of this is based on fan reaction. Brad Marchand, Matthew Tkachuk, Sam Bennett. Tkachuk's at 41%, Marchand's at 38%, Bennett's at like 20, 21. So it's actually a pretty tight race. How would you answer it before the series? How do you think you might answer it after the series?
So I think before the series, I would say Matthew Tkachuk because he's just the center of it all. And he will bug you with the way that he behaves, and he will bug you with the way that he plays. And it's sort of, in all facets, he will aggravate and irritate. By the end of the series, it would not surprise me if it's Sam Bennett because he brings an element of physicality. Sure, he chirps like Marchand and Tkachuk, and sure, he's good like those guys as well. But he's just a little bit dirtier, more physical and dirtier. He's a dirty player in a good way. That's a compliment. And I think by our 7-game series, when he's had his fourth run with Austin Matthews, where it's got a little high or it's got a little late, or Braden Shen hit like Scheifele, you're like, that guy, he's the guy we hate the most.
Yeah. See, it's interesting. From my standpoint, it's Marchand. And not because he can have the impact, but because he represents the Bruins, which these other guys don't. And he's the only guy. He was there in 2013, and if you're a fan, that's unparalleled. There's no one else you can apply that type of history to. And now he's on the Panthers.
And what if I spin it this way? He's lost that luster. He's lost that leverage because he's not even brought to Brew anymore. He got traded out of there because they stunk. You know what I mean? He's no longer a representative of a team that you had issues with.
They go play somewhere else. Don't play in Florida. This is my reaction to that.
He's a rat with a pretty heavy vibe, fellas.
Yes.
Is what
he was good.
And he
that
is going.
Lundell line.
Yes.
They were going to we will talk so much about Barkov and about Bennett. I tell you what, that Lundell line with Luostarinen and Marchand, that was always going to be the third line. It's a tough one. And when you compare that to Toronto, it's not quite apples to oranges how you get deployed. But the third line at times for Toronto was their fourth line. They were not playing very much, and they're going to have to sort that out because they're going to need some sort of continuity, confidence in the third line to match up against Florida and what they have.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. What do you expect St. Louis, Winnipeg tonight?
I mean, what is it, 14? 14 in a row,
yes,
St. Louis at home?
14 in a row.
That is, a month and a half without losing, without Scheifele, no Wheelers, crowd in a frenzy. It's so set up for St. Louis to win that game. Now, You never know. Can Mesnikov do what he did last game? I don't think so. So I think absolutely they're going back for Game 7, unless the ultimate wild card, if Connor Hellebuck has just a game of brilliance, which would be this is it, right? This would wash away a lot of salt if he can find a way to have one night, put the team on his back, and don't worry about it, guys. We might give up 45. We might only get 2 goals. That's going to stand up. He could do it. He might have to do it tonight.
I agree. I'm going to do a Sports Center. For me, he's been pulled twice in that building in a row. Like this could be a statement game for him. Like go in there, show why you're going to win the Vezina, show why you're, that
might win the Hart.
Yeah,
might win the Hart.
That
legacy
type of Hart, it could be a legacy night. I think Ehlers might play though. Oh, you thought so too. He's a game time decision,
like
Johnny. It sounds like I think he'll play. I really do. But
it's huge because
it is a big
make
boost.
That second line cook.
Yeah, it is a big boost for them. But I think it all comes down to the goalie. I think it's that he's got to have a Vezina night to show everybody like I'm still the guy here. Like let's cool the Jets.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
And I think if he does that, it's the ultimate statement. Mic drop. Like Scheifele not there, St. Louis red hot at home. Doesn't matter. I'm in net. We're winning.
Yeah.
All right, Johnny. Enjoy the game tonight. Enjoy Game 7 tomorrow, and we'll do it again early next week.
All right, fellas. Sounds good. Have a good weekend.
Mike Johnson, our TSN hockey analyst, joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. All right, Noodles, you're off to do a little panel work. You'll be back. We've got Sarah Oleski coming up. We got Bill Lindsay, covers the Panthers later this hour. We got Dear Hazy B in about an hour. Best bet still to come. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, Bill Lindsay a little bit later in the hour. Mail It In Friday brought to you by Boston Pizza, Canada's favorite sports bar. This playoff season, Boston Pizza is planning the parade and has a new all-star playoffs menu for you to enjoy. For pizza, pints, and puck drops, visit your local Boston Pizza today. All right, Noodles off doing a little panel work. Shout out to Boston Pizza. They sent in this new spray, like a cologne, earlier in the week that's kind of part of, I guess, the playoff push, and Doogie said it's world class. So Doogie has implemented the Boston Pizza spray into his routine, which I love to see.
Can I have a question with that?
Yeah.
Is it like a cologne type scent, or is it like
I believe cologne
and
but
pizza?
Doogie, go ahead if you want to jump on. Would you say, is it a pizza smell, like a wing smell?
No pizza smell. It's a room spray smell, but could be used as cologne too. As long as it smells good, you can use it as cologne.
I love it. See, Doogie,
it's like a body mist.
It's a body mist. It's a
Doogie,
body mist.
You wear a body mist?
Oh yeah, all the time. Multiple.
Listen to Doogie on the air.
Doogie's
it's so funny.
Like the smell of his office is so it's so outrageous.
JP tells me he loves it.
Well, there you go. You and JP. Look at you two. Just two peas in a pod doing their thing. Yeah, JP apparently does not love it. See your boy Scotty Scheffler, man. He is cooking down there in Texas.
Dude, I turned on the Golf Channel and the guy comes on. He's like, Scotty Scheffler 7 under through 9. I was like, this guy's insane, man.
Well, he's got to get a win. Like it's absurd, but he's so good, and he was so good last year. The fact that he hasn't won yet this year, it feels like a drought.
Dude, whoever fault that hand injury was, he secretly hates their guts.
Yes, agreed. Because it wasn't supposed to be him doing the ravioli. You know it. It's supposed to be a chef.
What the hell is a guy like that making ravioli with he cut himself, I think he was doing a wine glass trying to sink it into, I don't know what he was doing, but it was like.
He wasn't supposed to, and you know it. You know it. Yeah. There's some hired help that pulled the chute last minute, said, sorry, I'm busy, can't make it. And Scotty is never going to let him live it down. But it's beautiful here in Toronto. That's the beauty of the Leafs in the playoffs. You got the Jays playing. You can play golf during the day and bank on. Look at this weekend, Game 7 tomorrow night. There's nothing better than teeing it up and then being prepared for Game 7 tomorrow night. You watch the Jays in the afternoon. It's just like a dream day.
Dream day.
Dream day. And we're getting close to the RBC Canadian Open. I had someone send me a DM, Dear Hazy B. We're getting out in front of this. We're going to do Dear Hazy B in an hour. But just more so looking for some tips. And me and my buddies, we got tickets. We're going to be up there What can you guys tell us about it? And we would know better than anyone because we've been up there for years now. Find out when Rory McIlroy tees off is my tip. Tip number one, find out when McIlroy tees off and make sure you find him and just walk around with him for 5 or 6 holes.
Yeah.
Just track him.
Here's what you do first. You first call your contacts if you know any heavy hitters or somebody, and because there's all these like RBC private suites, you got to get in there if you want to have a nice time. You get in there in a nice situation with a nice view and have some cocktails, and then you figure out where Rory is. Mm-hmm. That's the move.
That is the move. It is a great move.
Let's be real. If you don't want to be wandering around with beer spilling, walking down grubby paths that are muddy, you want to be situated with heavy hitters.
Well, you can have the combination of both if you can get in there.
Everybody should walk the course.
Yeah, you got to walk around and find guys.
That's my move. One time I want to do the whole course, get angles, get views, get looks, and then I'll park it.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. If you can get a spot where you've got like one tee shot, one green, one fairway, and you've got views of everything, there's nothing like it, man. It's incredible. All right, Bill Lindsay's coming up. We're going to turn the page. Battle of Ontario has come and gone. It was nowhere near as crazy as it used to be 20, 25 years ago. Like, just not even close in terms of hits and fights and suspensions and goalies being pulled. It just never really materialized. But if you're the Leafs, you love it because you won the series, you got out unscathed, everyone's healthy, you have home ice, and you didn't drive anyone into the ground either. I think that's significant. Like last night, a little
horny on the poke check.
I don't know. Yeah, a little horny on the poke check. There you go. Matthews and Marner did not even play 20 minutes last night. So you had a closeout game, and your best players did not really get overtaxed. So you think you're in a good position. You should be in a good position. But it's the Florida Panthers, and they're rolling into town, and Bill Lindsay will join us to set the seat on the other side of the rink. What can we expect once Florida gets up here for Game 1? We'll get to that next. All right, Dear Hazy, be in about 45 minutes. Sarah Orleski coming up from St. Louis. Best bet still to come as well. Jays in action, Cleveland in town. The Jays took 2 of 3 against Boston. Big turnaround, man. Big turnaround. Game 2, 6th inning, Santander. Al Kirk. Couple of home runs, and the rest is history. Bats
you think
are alive.
That's the turning point? Could it possibly be a turning point in the season?
Well, look at last night. Vladdy hits a home run. Varsho's back. He hit another home run last night. Like, all of a sudden, there's been power in the last 2 games. I'm not going to jump to that conclusion. They don't deserve that level of support after 2 wins. But
hey, if you can do that and continue it, and apparently Scherzer's coming back, like maybe that's just a bit of a spark. And
yeah. You've survived through April. You're still a game under 500. Yankees are going to be the pace car, but you got to keep up with Boston, keep up with Tampa. Baltimore's had an awful start, and there aren't great teams in the American League. So I don't think the goalposts have moved. You got to get to 86, 87 wins, and they're on pace to not do that. They got to get better, but they crawled back into the series and they won the series. They needed that. They had to stop the bleeding, and they did that last night. So Cleveland in town this weekend. Again, we got a Game 7 tomorrow, Colorado, Dallas, possibly a Game 7 on Sunday between St. Louis and the Winnipeg Jets. And we believe Game 1 will go Monday night, Leafs Panthers up here in Toronto. And a man that I'm sure is preparing for that. Maybe he's got some insight on when this game's actually going to happen. Here is Panthers analyst Bill Lindsay back on OverDrive. Do you have any idea when we're going to see Game 1, Bill?
Yeah, no idea. It's definitely Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah,
that's all I got. That's all I got for you. But it lines up pretty good if you go Monday, Wednesday, a couple of days off for travel, then hockey night in Canada on Saturday back here in South Florida. So if you wanted to do that kind of schedule, that makes the most sense, I believe. So maybe we're out of the gate on Monday evening.
I love it. Okay, so we've talked a lot about the Leafs, all year clearly. The Panthers as well as anyone. How would you compare this Panthers team and this lineup and the way they're playing to last year's team that won the Stanley Cup?
Yeah, very similar. What they have is they've established their DNA, their identity. They're going to play it, and you bring in what Bill Zito's done again with bringing in Seth Jones, Brad Marchand, and these are round pegs into round holes. He's not forcing anything. They're going to fit into the locker room. They fit in nicely, and with all the stuff that's happened with Aaron Ekblad and the recent suspension, they got a wealth of depth on this team, and it continues to go around. And they will play. It's just a style that's built for playoffs. They're going to force you to dump the puck in. They want to dump the puck in down on the other end. It's going to be physical. They want to bring it into an alley fight, make it as mean as possible, nasty as possible, just down on the boards, into the trenches. Who wins those battles the most is usually comes out victorious. And the Panthers want to try and grind on you and lean on you as much as possible, not only for the 60 minutes, but for 6-7 games, whatever it takes in a series. They want to be heavy.
So is that what you would say, Billy? Like if you were talking to an opposing team, it's like if you take one shift off, that might cost you the hockey game. Like one silly play on the boards, like they're so strong in all aspects of the game. And by the way, when you get behind all those layers, the D dumping it in, penalty kill, they've got one of the best playoff goaltenders around in Bobrovsky.
Yeah, but if I was talking in near Toronto, you got to make sure you come out and if you can spread it out against the Panthers and get a lead and extend the lead, maybe to a couple of goals, then you can get the Panthers out of their comfort zone. Yeah. That's where it lies. I would really pay attention into that first period of this series and how it goes. If you're able to get on top, and that's one thing we really do get. We 4 of the 5 games we scored the first goal. Tampa in game number 5 got the first goal, but we got it right back. The one game we lost, we were chasing it, but for the most part, they're going to come out and. It's one of the best defensive teams that I've seen in a long, long time with the way they play. They just don't give you time and space. The rush chances aren't available. So if I'm looking at the Leafs side, and there's plenty of explosive players, but they have to understand that, okay, it's right from the get-go. We're going to have to go out, and we are going to have to play. Don't try anything extra. Don't be cute at the blue lines. You have the skill to do it, but it's probably not going to work against the Panthers. So if the Leafs and Craig Berube, the way that he's kind of changed this team, they've gone into that philosophy where they will dump it in more, they will grind out more into the cycles. So it's going to come back into the trenches. I firmly believe who wins this series. If you can win those 50-50 board battles, come out on top, extend leads, then you're going to have the better chances in the games.
With Bill Lindsay, Panthers analyst, you mentioned Craig Berube, and we were comparing and contrasting, this upcoming series to the one from 2 years ago, where, Berube's in for Keefe and Stolarz is in for Samsonov, and they got a bunch of new defense pairings. Is it Berube, though, in particular for you that represents the biggest change from a Maple Leaf perspective compared to what we saw 2 years ago when these teams met?
Yeah, for the most part, from what I've seen, you guys are willing to dump the puck in more, and maybe some of the numbers have suffered from Matthews and those guys, the goal scoring. And it was much like us when we won that President's Trophy that year. It was high octane. It was run and gun. Let's get after it. Let's go. But Paul Maurice understood that was not going to work in the playoffs, and he reshaped it into more of a, okay, we're going to tighten down, play a 1-3-1 through the middle of the ice, a wing lock. We're going to have to dump the puck in. You have to get the players to buy into that system. It's difficult. I've seen the same thing from Craig Berube. You guys are still dangerous off the rush. When you get the opportunities, you'll make things happen, but will they be there? But there's been more of a willingness I've found for the Maple Leafs. Okay, let's dump it in, let's grind, let's play a little bit heavier of a game, and it's a balanced lineup. I do like what they do, especially onto that fourth line. The third line's got a little bit of grit and plenty of talent on those top 2 lines, just like the Panthers. So you can roll the 4 lines, you can test the Panthers with their depth. If I look up and down the lineup as far as the depth-wise, Toronto is one team that compares really well, in my personal opinion, in the depth. So that goes right in the Craig Berube has changed the dynamic of that team to what Paul Maurice was trying to do here in Florida, to win at this time of the year, do the things that can win at this time of the year, and I do say that from the Leafs.
Billy, you talk about Paul Maurice coming in and dealing with some philosophy stuff, some X's and O's stuff. We were talking about it a few days ago. We might have even brought it back up today. But the transaction of Matthew Tkachuk coming onto that roster and replacing Huberdeau, I just can't state how big of a factor that is, and organizationally changing kind of the mindset of the players and everything that goes into the approach and on-ice stuff. Can you just touch on how important this guy is and what he brings to the table on the ice and off the ice on a nightly basis?
Yeah, so Matthew's, and his brother Brady too, but Matthew is a unicorn in the NHL. If you have a chance to get a player like that, that you go out and get them, even if you have to sacrifice Huberdeau, because those players don't come along that are gonna be after you all night. They're just like a dog, kind of just nipping at you. They're always in your face. It's gonna grind. It's gonna be heavy. He loves that kind of style. He's not the fastest skater. He's not gonna blow you out of the water, but he's got these exceptional hands. The locker room, it's talk, let's go. We got a bunch of different leaders on the Panthers that kind of help out. Barkov's quiet. Reinhardt's kind of the scientist behind it all. And then you get to players like Matthew Tkachuk, Brad Marchand. They're go, just hyper velocity, hyper energy. So when you bring a player like that into your locker room and kind of change that dynamic, it fits into what Paul Maurice was trying to do and Bill Zito and the whole system change, that you are going to play this way. And they bought in. And Matthew Tkachuk was a big part of that. Okay, this is how we're going to sell the game. This is how we're going to buy into it. And now you got Barkov. Everyone else is, okay, we don't have to be flashy and dashy to win hockey games. So the trade for Matthew Tkachuk, what he's meant to here in South Florida, is he's become a cult hero down here. Everyone loves him. He's embraced the community. So on, off the ice, what he means in the dressing room, he definitely, Jeff, to your point, he changed the whole dynamic of this team.
Well, how does that apply to Brad Marchand now, who is not in his prime the way Matthew Tkachuk is, but has that personality, has the ability? What has he brought to the table, and what have you seen out of him that would allow you to believe Marchand can have a big impact in this series against the Leafs?
Well, there's no greater impact than it. That line. That's where maybe the separator lies for the Panthers a lot of time, is with that Lundell, Luostarinen line. Last year was Tarasenko on the wing, and this year you got Marchand, and he's talking to him all the time. And Marchand's one of the greatest two-way wingers we have ever seen, and Lundell and Luostarinen are built in that same way. A lot of defense thinking first, but Brad Marchand, if you talk to Paul Maurice, has talked to those guys a lot. Hey, we get the puck on our stick. Let's do some stuff. We got the ability to score. We can get after it. We've got talent here, so let's hang on to it. Let's make some plays. And they dominated. They obliterated Tampa Bay in game number 5. It was about as stunning a performance from a third line that I've ever seen. And Marchand was all over the ice. And you go back to game 4, we're down a couple of goals, and Paul Maurice mentioned Marchand's up and down the bench. He's talking, let's go, we're in it. So he's got that leadership from being a captain in Boston. You bring that onto the bench, you're never out of a fight. He's believing, and he kind of installs, once you hear that, into a player like Marchand with over 1,000 games, 170-some playoff games. When he starts going on the bench and he starts talking, and Lundell and Luostarinen, let's get after it, boys, let's go. It's just that extra boost, and it's not coming from a player. Eventually, he's borderline Hall of Fame right now. He's probably going to end up with Hall of Fame numbers at the end of his career. But when a Hall of Famer, future Hall of Famer, is saying that kind of stuff, people listen. And just watching him play and integrate into this team, especially the last 5-6 games into these playoffs, you can see what kind of difference he makes.
Bill, how surprised were you that Florida dismantled Tampa the way they did?
I was surprised. I thought it'd be a close series throughout. I thought it'd be 6-7 games for the most part. But it went right back to last year, and Paul Maurice resting players down the stretch, making sure everything was healthy, not mattered about the standings, where you finished, and giving guys days off. And once you got there, you just had to get the Ekblad suspension out of the way. Now, again, you got to get the Ekblad suspension out of the way. But once they got into the playoffs, this team was healthy and ready to go. And I was talking to Maurice the other day, and he said, yeah, a lot of stuff. We were playing on 3/4 of a tank all year. There were some great games in there, but to play that way, he wanted the full tank of gas. Once the playoffs got there, he knows how important it is to be healthy. And so from that standpoint, now you can see what we did really special in the playoffs last year. We took away the star players, and you can see what we did against Kucherov. Kucherov's had some assists, but was pretty much a non-factor. The same thing could be said about Braden Point. He had a couple of moments. Not much. Jake Gensel was their best player as far as the big guns go on Tampa Bay. And it was a close series, but to do what they did, I was kind of surprised. But you look back, and when this team is healthy and what they can do with the time and space and the defensive structure, if they score even a little bit, if I go back to the regular season, I believe they are 44 5-1 when they score 3+ goals. So if they get to that 3-goal barrier with their defense, they're pretty tough to beat.
Well, we'll see what comes of it Monday, maybe Tuesday night. Leafs, Panthers. He is Bill Lindsay, analyst for the Florida Panthers. Thank you for doing this, Bill. We'll chat again soon.
No problem. Thank you very much, guys.
So that last messaging is one that you need Matthews and Marner and Nylander to listen to carefully. That they completely smothered Kucherov and Point, and
they want to eliminate you.
Yeah, they're going to eliminate you, and they'll do that.
That's exactly what they did against Tampa. And another point that I picked up from that conversation that must make the Detroits of the world and Buffaloes cringe, that some of these teams were like, we're 3/4 of a tank, let's just like get in.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Still knew they would. They're like, whatever, we'll just get there with 100 points. Who cares?
Yeah, we got half a tank, but we're good enough to get in, and then we'll fill up the tank. It's like other GMs must be just throwing up hearing that.
I know. You're right, because there were a number of teams that did that. Like, just don't play that guy. Who cares about this guy? I'm not playing him more than 15 minutes tonight.
That is scary stuff if you're a GM that just was like terrible team where like good teams are throwing half a tank at it and saying, don't worry about it.
Yep. And you have that much confidence. And Florida did it. They're in the second round. Edmonton did it. They're in the second round. It's tough to hear that. There's no question. Including other teams, even wildcard teams like Montreal and Ottawa. It's like you gotta go back to the start now and fight and make sure you get there. We'll discuss that into the next hour. Tee up Game 6 tonight. Blues Jets as well. Continue to look back on the Battle of Ontario. We'll get to Deer Hazy B coming up. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.